California, ranking member of the Asia Subcommittee.
We should remember why we're in this situation. The executive branch under the Bush administration refused to enforce sanctions and violated American statutes for the benefit of Iran for 8 continuous years. The Bush administration prevented Congress from passing and used all of its power in Congress to prevent us passing new statutory sanctions. Now, that doesn't fit with the image we have of President Bush until you realize that at the time, the sanctions all focused on international oil companies, which was not President Bush's target of choice. Had we continued President Bush's policies, well, we should know that during the Bush administration, Iran went from 0 to 5,000 installed centrifuges. Had we continued those policies, Iran would have $300 billion more available to it in cash right now, because we've frozen $100 billion and $200 billion has been lost to Iran in lost oil sales. But it is not the executive branch but Congress that has had it right for the last 15 years, which is why I take such offense when I hear the administration say, Congress, if we have a view, we're interfering and undermining. When you read the United States Constitution, you will see that when it comes to economic sanctions and international economics, all the power is vested in Congress, except to the extent that the President negotiates a treaty that is ratified by the Senate. Yet I fear that what the administration is doing is using foreign ropes to tie the hands of the United States Congress, because the foreign minister of Iran was able to cite Article 27 of the Vienna Convention on Treaties, saying, well, the United States will be in violation of international law if Congress doesn't do whatever the President promises Congress will do. And the administration feeds into that when a high administration official declares foreign policy runs through the executive branch and the President and does not go through other channels. I fear that we will have a situation where the executive branch comes to us and says, you have to take this action, you're prohibited from taking that action, because you're going to hold the United States up to ridicule for being in violation of international law. I would hope that you would look at the memo issued by the Carter Department of Justice that stated, Congress may enact legislation modifying or abrogating executive agreements, and that if that was formally turned over to the Iranian delegation, that would get us support under Article 46 of the Vienna Convention on Treaties. I should point out for the record that in 2007, Senator Clinton introduced, with the co-sponsorships of Senator Obama and Senator Kerry, the Oversight of Iraq Agreements Act, which stated that any status of forces agreement with the United States and Iraq that was not a treaty approved by 2/3 of the Senate or authorized by legislation would not have the force of law, and prohibited funding to implement that. For the record, because I just don't have time to give you at this moment, I'd like you to explain whether, under the standards of the Obama administration, the introduction of that act by those 3 senators constituted an interference with policy, undermining President Bush's policy, et cetera. But I want to focus on a particular question. There is a question here. I fear that you have misled this committee in telling us that once Iran has the rights of a non-nuclear state, subject to the additional protocol, that you'll be able to stop sneak out, because you've said first that, well, they can't develop a nuclear weapon because that would be illegal. That's a preposterous argument. Obviously, they're willing to break the law. And the next point is that you've conjured up this idea that there'll be inspections. The question is inspections of suspected sites. There's nothing in the additional protocol that adds to the NPT. The NPT was in force, and it took 2 years after it was widely suspected that Fordo was a secret site for the IAEA to get there. So why do you tell us that, oh, this IAEA, it's worked fine for Japan and the Netherlands, it'll work great for Iran, when it won't allow us to get in quickly to suspected sites? Mr. Deputy Secretary.
Thank you very much. First, if Iran makes an agreement, it will make it with the full knowledge that if it violates the agreement, there will be severe consequences.
I'm talking about sneaking, not being detected, secret sites.
The inspections regime that we will insist on, first of all, for any initial duration, well, let me finish if I may, please, will be beyond that any country has had any time, anywhere in the world. That will, from cradle to grave of the production process, mines, mills, factories, centrifuge facilities, that will create a basis of knowledge of the people, the places, the documents that will last far beyond the duration of any of those provisions. Then beyond that, its obligations under a safeguards agreement, under the additional protocol, under Modified Code 3.1, all of those taken together will, with any other measures that we might achieve on top of that, and those remain to be negotiated, give us the confidence that the inspectors will have the ability to detect in a timely fashion any efforts by Iran to break out of the agreement.
So you need an intrusive inspection regime. You will have it for a few years, and then, for reasons you can't explain, the blindfolds will go on, and we'll hope that we can prevent sneak out thereafter.
No,
I yield back.
The blindfolds won't be on. They'll be off.
Okay, so Mr. Dana Rohrabacher of California, Chairman of the Subcommittee on Europe.